Live within your means is a pretty good rule. You're talking about rule of thumbs, right? If you make $2,000 a month, then you got to be really frugal and really budget that. If you make $100,000 a month, doesn't mean you should have 50% of your bills. It's live within your means is like that first baseline of understanding. And if you're making $2,000 a month, go get another job, work harder, get some cash flow through, and then find some way that you can actually maximize that income so that you can reclaim that time. Do you know the expression, pull yourself up by the bootstraps? And so it's almost an insulting cliche there to tell someone, go out there, work hard, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Go out and get the cash flow that you can now start reallocating towards actual investments, right? Like that's the entire idea of prosperity movement is let's go invest. Now, there's tons of ways to invest, and it's not just money. You can invest your time at the gym for your health, right? Like there's so many different ways that you can invest, and ours is vehicle specific about investing money. It's about what the money can then do to impact your life, but it kind of all starts at ground zero with live within your means, because it's not just a budget thing, but it's a personality, it's a discipline type of thing as well.
So what are the secrets? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs find the freedom that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do entrepreneurs like us align our time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this community will give you the answers. Welcome to the Prosperity Movement.
Well, everybody, welcome to the Prosperity U podcast. This is Travis and myself. We're a couple of the co-founders of the company, and we like to get together and share with you guys bits of wisdom and pieces of things that we've learned over the years to help ourselves build and follow our own system in terms of building wealth and legacy and things like that. And so typically we like to start out by reading off our mission, vision, values. And so our mission is to impact the world by bringing the life-giving principles of prosperity to it. Our vision is to guide our community to back engineer their full power and potential with purpose-driven growth so they can do more of the things they love with the people they love most. And then our values ultimately boil down to three main values: impact, integrity, and intentionality. So under impact, in order to impact the world, we value time, health, relationships, and legacy relentlessly at the highest level. Integrity, we value people over profits and are driven and dedicated to the success of our community. And then intentionality, we provide result-oriented support through mentorship to ignite an inspired and focused community. And that focus and whatnot is actually part of what we want to talk about today a little bit. So I just silenced my phone. I don't know if you heard the little bling. I just silenced that.
I didn't hear it at all.
Okay, good. Good. But yeah, guys, we were just talking, Bryan, Travis, and I earlier, and we were talking about how it's interesting how we come across some folks who are making good money, over six figures, and yet they have like really horrible credit. And like we're thinking about that and like what's typically the cause? I mean, there's extenuating circumstances. There's reasons that maybe, something weird happened in life. But for the most part, what we've found is that a lot of times it's just people trying to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing. And being, I don't want to say irresponsible with money, but sort of, just kind of like over leveraging their own income. And I personally have a personal experience with this. I did that exact thing when I was an engineer. It's as soon as I get a raise or a bump in my income, I got a bump in my lifestyle, and it's a trap that so many people fall into. And so we kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit today, and kind of how to stay out of it, so to speak. And I have my own experiences with that. And Travis, though, I know you have too. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the the $72,000 pickup that I purchased when I was barely making like 5 or 6 grand a month.
Oof.
With great credit, right? They'll loan you pretty much the entire world, right? So I ended up with this pickup truck. I mean, really long story short, I got swindled on the deal. They lied to me and said I could just refinance in a few months. So as long as I do their credit stuff, then I can get a good deal on the price of the truck. So I was like, all right, makes sense. I'll refinance in 6 months. So 6 months comes, and I'm what's called in negative equity, meaning that the truck wasn't worth as much as I owed on it anymore. Because you drive it off the lot and it just tanks in value. Especially Rams. It was a Ram. Don't hate me. And so I couldn't refinance it at all, and I'm stuck with this horrible interest rate, especially as compared to what I would qualified for originally, and especially as compared to how much I actually was on the loan. So my payment was ridiculously high, and I was struggling with the notion of I really thought about bankruptcy. Like, can I just get out of this? Like,
Yeah.
that's one of those scenarios where you bit off more than you can chew, and you took a different route. Either didn't pay your bills, or you filed bankruptcy, or something. Like, I understand how that thought process can start working for people, right? Now, I ended up not doing that, and this is kind of how you and I ended up meeting. Is this truck brought us together because I'm insanely mad about the fact that I'm in this truck now. I no longer like it, want out of it. I call my buddy. He's a good friend of mine, and I know he's got some strings that he could pull. So I was like, buddy, I'm going to call in that once in a lifetime kind of favor, right? Just get me out of this. He goes, nope, you're stuck in that, dude. Car contracts are solid, right? So I was like, okay, well, if I can't figure out how to get out of this, I'm going to figure out how to make more money, pay it off. That's literally how I got into the path of meeting you and partnering with you and doing business. Well, you and Bryan, right? Was
Yeah.
that notion. I was so mad. I hung up on the guy. I was like, fine, if I can't figure out how to get out of it, I'm going to figure out how to make more money. And I did. But the idea was I made a little bit more money at the time, income wise, and I thought I can go into more debt and more debt. And I thought that budget was just how much money did I make and how much could I spend on someone else's debt. There's a difference between, and I don't quote this, or I didn't coin this, but I heard someone talking, and he goes, the difference between the person in poverty, the middle class, and the rich is pretty simple. Okay, people in poverty think that income is meant to pay bills, but like utility bills and rent, right? Like food, rent, car payment, like that's about it. The middle class think that income is meant to be able to get better credit and more debt. The American dream, the white picket fence, the big mortgage, the whole 9 yards, right? And then the wealthy, they believe money is meant to make more money. In other words, to invest, right? Mm-hmm. And they talk about assets and liabilities and everything, right? So the difference of thinking was I was certainly going from the poverty, where I was very, very poor with income, like, $5 an hour back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I started making some pretty decent income. And at that point I thought, well, how do I use this? Okay, obviously I can't go out and be Warren Buffett. I only have $5,000 a month, so might as well spend it. I'm not going to save myself to freedom, right? So I was like, let's get more debt. Well, hell, now we're here now, and I'm thinking, man, what a ridiculous thing. I don't own that truck no more. I got rid of it and worked more to be under my means, right? So I'm sorry, that was a long kind of tangent there, but it's an important story.
That's perfect. Yeah, I love it to death. I think that's really important because for me it was relatively not exactly the same, but I remember when I was an engineer, it was like I got a boost in income. Hey, let's get a new. For me, it was a minivan because I have a army of children, right? So let's get a new.
How many
minivan.
kids are you at now? 25, 30?
40. No, I was kidding. Just six. But I remember just constantly like increase in income, increase in lifestyle, increase in income, increase in lifestyle. And that's the game I played until I got involved in entrepreneurship, because I didn't like the idea of being away from my family for so long all the time. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I was like, oh, this is a different this is a different scenario, right? This is a different feel because now all of a sudden I'm not guaranteed a paycheck. So now all of a sudden I have to kind of fight for my food. And I was like, I need to cut back. I need to like lower my lifestyle. And so I did. And I started making a bunch of cuts and canceling things. And I even started selling some things that I didn't need. And, like just really started cutting back, cutting back as much as I possibly could, until we get to, where I'm at today. And today I like to focus hard on time because you're right. I think the wealthy, they do focus on how can my money make me more money? 100%. I also like to look at how can I use my time, to help my health and my relationships and my legacy more than mowing the lawn,
Yeah.
for example, right? So if it makes sense, I hire someone to mow the lawn for me, even if it's one of those 6 kids. Right. But that's the idea is like, you're kind of guarding that. And it's interesting to me just how people I don't know if that's a lesson that you can learn from listening to a podcast like this, or if that's something that people just have to kind of experience for themselves, to fully understand it. I don't
I don't
know.
know. I think it's different person to person. There's plenty of people that I know that they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they've done very well for themselves as
Mm,
with having the community of people to include, of course, the parents, but the whole family, and then how they grew up and were raised and were taught to behave and such, and obviously we know about the spoiled kids that go and squander the parents' money, but I know quite a few personally that have done very, very well for themselves just having been exposed to the advice and the teachings. But the truth of the matter is that the farther you are away from poverty in general, the easier it is for you to go out and take calculated risks, right? So unless you're just a bonehead and squandering such, the opportunity to go through and make small mistakes that aren't devastating is it's a lot easier for those people, right? And so
yeah.
I think that there's still probably those micro lessons that are happening, but as far as like this just truly bad, I made a bad mistake kind of thing, and it's changed my life because of it. Like my $72,000 truck was just a bad decision all around, right? Not a little tiny mistake; it was huge for me. I'm not sure that that's necessary for everybody to get the big picture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so what advice would you give? Like, what would you think is a good rule of thumb to follow to avoid falling into kind of that kind of trap? So for me, for example, I like to keep my we'll say mandatory expenses, okay, things like rent and your energy bill and those kinds of things, right? So I like to keep mandatory expenses less than half of my income, okay, as a bare minimum. And if those are equaling half of my income, there's no way I'm going to get something extra like another monthly payment on a streaming subscription or a new car payment or anything like that. It's not going to work because I'm already at 50%. I'm not going to go over that, right? Now if that dips down and I'm at 30% because I made more money or what have you, and it's a consistent thing, about 30%, maybe I might consider it, depending if it's necessary or not. But that's kind of one of my rules of thumb is I never want to have my expenses be more than 50% of my income. Um, I don't know, Travis, if you have anything like that, because you're very let's say frugal in my experience being with you and being friends with you. So I'd be very curious to know kind of some of your pieces of advice there. Don't
Don't
say
buy
just don't buy
don't
anything.
buy coffee outside of the house. Cook your own food and drink cheap beer.
All right.
Pretty much. No, on a serious note, what you're talking about is a type of budgeting. Everyone's got different numbers for that. I think there's a lot of like unanimously agreed upon ways to decide, can you legitimately afford the car payment if you're looking for a car? It's, they'll say, well, it can only be X amount of your monthly income, right? What does that look like? I think that that's going to look different to everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, And certainly after marrying Lisa, I've had to figure out how to rebudget. Even today, I was looking through the bank account and I saw this thing for $82, and I was like, I don't remember that. And I asked Lisa, I said, what is this? And she was, I don't know. She's like, I bought us watercolor classes. I was like, oh, and so things like that, I'm not used to budgeting for the I guess entertainment, you would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm still kind of always adapting and such to the times and changing as well. But I think it's fair to say that live within your means is a pretty good rule. You're talking about rule of thumbs, right?
Yeah.
So if you make $2,000 a month, then you got to be really frugal and really budget that, right? If you make $100,000 a month, doesn't mean you should have 50% of your bills. 50
Right.
grand a
Well,
month,
yeah.
like,
Right.
so it's live within your means is like that first baseline of understanding. And if you're making $2,000 a month, go get another job.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Go get another job, work harder, get some cash flow through, and then find some way that you can actually maximize that income so that you can reclaim that time, because you shouldn't sit there and, the expression, pull yourself up by the bootstraps?
Yeah.
Physically an impossible thing to do. Right? You cannot lift yourself up with bootstraps. And so it's almost an insulting cliche there to tell someone, go out there, work hard, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like, no, go out and get the cash flow that you can now start reallocating towards actual investments, right? Like that's the entire idea of prosperity movement is let's go invest. Now, there's tons of ways to invest, and it's not just money. You can invest your time at the gym for your health, right? Like life's like the gym, right?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
There's so many different ways that you can invest, and ours is vehicle specific about investing money, and it's about what the money can then do to impact your life. But it kind of all starts at ground zero with live within your means, because it's not just a budget thing, but it's a personality, it's a discipline type of thing as well. So the rule of thumb, is it 50% of my income goes to bills or what? I mean, it's going to be different person to person.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I've lowered that as my income increases. I've lowered that percentage goal because, I'd rather invest more into some other, investments, things to make my money more money. I don't know why my green screen just decided to bug out on me here. It's because the reflection sometimes gets too bright. Anyways, but no, I think that's definitely accurate, and I think another thing that I do in terms of rules of thumb is I tell myself frequently I'm in control of my money. And this is a really important principle for me, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes there have been times in my life where it's like, hey, great, I got a bonus from work, and then lo and behold, the car breaks down, and now I have a $1,500 bill for the mechanic, right? And it's like, there goes that bonus, right? Like, these are things that have happened in my life. There was a point in time, I remember this distinctly. So I was an engineer, and I remember this exact scenario happened where I got like a bonus, and my family and we were headed towards a CC's Pizza. Okay, if you don't, it's like a pizza buffet restaurant, and we're going there because they have the best. They have something called macaroni and cheese pizza. It's so good. I'm serious. Anyway, so I'm going. We're in this minivan. I got 6 kids.
You don't have 6 kids. You're part of 7 kids. CC Pizza.
And the van breaks down on the way. And it wasn't a small problem. It was a big problem, like overheating, all sorts of stuff. And so we end up having to get it towed a very long distance, which was pricey. And then turns out it's like a serious issue. It's going to cost a lot of money. And so I decided at that moment, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to fix this van. We have a vehicle that can't fit all my kids in it, but we have that vehicle. And for now, we're just not going to go somewhere all at once. Okay, because I gotta figure out some things. And I decided to take control of the scenario and say, no, that van is just gonna sit in my driveway for a minute. I'm not gonna fix it right now. I want to control where my money goes. And as soon as I made that decision, I started seeing other ways to be resourceful. And I started seeing other ways to control where my finances were going instead of letting life control it for me. So that's another rule of thumb for me is I control my income, no one else and nothing else. And that's really important.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that car, you putting all your kids in there, and like in case of emergency, how are you going to put them all in there? Are they going to like double up on the seats? Is someone going to get trunk space? Like, if it's trunk space, which one gets the trunk? You know, like, and you get the trunk.
Who's misbehaving that day? They get the trunk.
Yeah, and I think about money in general is such a bizarre concept, and it's not taught in school. And if it is taught in school, I think it's taught incorrectly. You know, I really strongly disagree with most of the modern education system. I just think it's a sham. But if you're not taught about things with just proper investing as you're growing up, again, not just money, time, money, energy, the whole nine yards. If you're not taught how to do that, you're taught what to think instead of how to think, then we got to start at ground zero with myself. I had to start there, and everyone else it seems that we work with, for the most part, we got to start from ground zero and say, like, here's how to think, not what to think, but how to do it. And then it becomes a personal thing and a person to person thing, right?
Yeah. So let's say someone is not necessarily living, maybe they're barely living within their means right now, where things are a little bit tight. You know, what are some ways that they can? Obviously, the easy answer is like cancel Netflix. Don't, you know, some of the simple advice you gave earlier, don't drink coffee outside the house and those kinds of things. Those are definitely helpful, 100%. But are there ways for them to increase their income? And this is where I would say that there's two really big principles of wealthy folks. Anyone that I've ever met that's wealthy, they fit in these two categories, these two descriptions. Number one, they're very resilient. And number two is they're very resourceful. So they're resilient and they're resourceful. So if things are tight, and I've been there, Travis, I know, has been there as well, where you've been so darn like, I don't know what to do. I have no money left over. Those kinds of things. Number one, you got to be resilient.
Really close to not being able to pay my mortgage a couple times.
Yeah, I didn't pay my mortgage a couple times until later. Yeah, it was a rough patch, you know, and it was like that was during a time when I had no running toilet either, because our lateral lines were clogged and no one was willing to do payment plans to fix it. So that was like a $15,000 bill that I had to like figure out. And it was a very rough time in my life. This is very, very early on in my entrepreneur journey. Anyway, obviously I got out of it. I was resilient and I got resourceful. So some simple things that I've seen people do would be like driving Uber. Believe it or not, if you literally YouTube how to make the most out of Uber, you're going to find ways that, I mean, people are making $300-400 a day driving Uber, you know?
I personally know one person.
Yeah. So like it's definitely a feasible income. Or DoorDash, you can do the same thing. And if you YouTube how to make the most out of DoorDash, and I've done this because I have adult children who are always trying to make an extra buck when they got time. So I just send them these videos like, dude, you just got to Google it, be resourceful, right? Figure it out. And the DoorDash one was like, you should only do it between these hours. Any other time, it's not worth it. You know, so it's like, it's very, very interesting to look into that. But I feel like there's never really a reason to not be able to pull ahead as long as you're resilient and resourceful. You just got to think outside the box a little bit.
Have you ever heard of the show Undercover Billionaire?
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
That is a wild concept. If
Yes.
whoever's listening doesn't know what that is, it's where people who have $1 billion net worths are asked to go incognito to a city. They get dropped off. They have, I think it's $500, maybe $100 cash, $5 or $100, somewhere around there. And they are told go build $1 million company in 3 months,
It's a
right?
city. I think it's a city they've never been to.
No
They're not.
connections. They can't
They're
use their
they're
own
not allowed to use any
resources.
connections, or they don't have their normal cell phone where they can just text someone to help out or whatever. Like it's from scratch, as if they were a normal person with $100 or whatever that number is, right?
I don't
And
think any of the participants have yet to make to fail that challenge. In 3 months, build $1 million company, and that means $1 million valuation. Doesn't necessarily mean $1 million cash, right?
right,
So there's some nuance there that you may or may not agree with how they come up to that evaluation. But regardless, the point is saying is that if you know what to do and how to do it, being resilient and resourceful are going to be your friends. So I guess the last thing that you have to have is a little bit of knowledge as well,
yeah,
right? So resilient, resourceful.
can't think of an R knowledge word.
No, I was trying to go down a different path. I won't go there.
Okay.
But at either rate, I think that for those who are resourceful specifically are going to be rewarded for it. One of the things I watched one of the guys on Undercover Billionaire. One of the things that he did was he's just starting now. He's got his $100 cash. He's like, what do I do? It's like it's the 4th of July or something. So he went to the dollar store, bought a bunch of balloons and stupid stuff, and then went to the parks that people were at and sold it for instance. He bought it for $1, sold it for 5 per little thing, right? And so he went and 5 times his income right then and there. And it's just like little things like that that I've never thought about doing. Is it made me ponder the question: can I figure out how to do that 5 days a week for an entire year? The reason being is because I hate taxes. I don't like the tax man, right? And so I'm like, okay, so if you get if it's less than $600 as per the IRS code, you don't have to report it as long as it's just a hobby. If you keep replicating the same event, then it becomes an income, right? And so if I decided to build a little kitchen or a end table out of some 2x4s and sell it, and I did that a few times, I can make $600 and no more, and it's not considered income, right? So if I do that, can I figure out 5 days a week for the entire year how to do something different and be resourceful like that? Every day that I'm making $500 is non-taxable. What is 500 times 260? Let's see. That's $130,000 a year of non-taxable income. If you can figure out how to make $500 a day with a different thing, right now, Zach, I'm at 130 different ideas.
Yeah.
And do you remember me talking to you about this? I'd
Yeah.
like to do a YouTube video series. It just shows me literally for an entire year going out and doing all these things, making $500 and then not having to report it to the IRS, right? That's awesome. And that's the idea of being resourceful
Yeah.
that I don't think that we're taught in school. We're not taught to be resourceful. We're taught to be regurgitating information and following rules. Sit down, shut up, and listen to what I have to say, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not taught how to think, what to think though. So then in your opinion, what's the solution for the majority of us that went through that experience with regular school and haven't really thought about this? Like really until a few years ago, I didn't believe that there was opportunity for a regular person like me to succeed and get ahead in life. I didn't realize that. I thought it was you're either born into a good family or you're not, right? When I say good, I mean
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I would say a huge contributor to that belief system is going to be the content you consume. This goes along with that principle of your income equals the average of the 5 people you hang around most, right? It's the same kind of concept. Is the content that you consume ultimately controls your belief. So if you're constantly watching content about you got a case of the Mondays and employees this and diplomas that, right? You're gonna have a certain set of beliefs, and it's gonna be kind of harder to get out of that. But if you're listening to entrepreneur type podcasts where those folks are a little bit more, I want to say, self-aware, where they're like, hey, how come I was able to accomplish this and I didn't go to college? To give you a prime example, guys, and this is why I'm not the biggest college advocate out there is because I dropped out of college after 2 weeks and I still became an engineer without a college degree of any kind. And so it's very doable as long as somebody is resilient and resourceful. Um, but I would say, yeah, content. Be aware of the content you're consuming. What kind of music are you listening to? What kind of books are you reading or listening to? What kind of podcasts are you listening to? Right? If you're just listening to podcasts about, I don't know, dating or politics or news or stuff like that, it's pretty negative, right? That's going to have a negative impact on your life. Your content controls belief. And if you remember that forever, I learned that from a guy named Steven Larson, brilliant marketer guy.
Content controls belief.
Mhm.
That's what you just said. I love that
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty revolutionary. I mean, think about it. Even people with political viewpoints, what news stations they listen to, right? You know what kind of content they're consuming based on their belief that they are expressing.
I talked to my grandma yesterday, and she is. We have the same concept. I would say politically, like we have the same concepts in mind that we want to see, but when it comes to the actual temperature, we're like polar opposites, right? And she called me, or I called her yesterday, and she told me I was right because she did her research and she looked at the content. And I was like, I challenged her. I was like, just go look at anything besides CNN and wherever else you've been looking, go look at politically neutral content so that you can have probably an opportunity to digest and make your own conclusions rather than being told what to think. You can go and choose how to think it, right? I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm pretty happy about that. It's like,
Yeah, that's amazing.
You got to go out and
job,
get the
Grandma.
right content. If you're just watching Fox News, you're going to be biased towards Fox politics. If
Yeah.
you're just watching CNN, you're going to be biased towards CNN politics if you're always consuming that. So the best thing to do probably is either watch both of them so you have opposing viewpoints that you could digest and form an opinion on, or to go to a different, probably should go to a different source. Both of those places suck. But go to a politically neutral one and just get the information. That's it, without the agenda. But that's not just for news. That's around everything, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't look just at one way to budget. We were just talking about earlier.
Yep.
Look at the concepts and trying to understand the meanings and implications behind it and dive deeper, which probably means you're going to look at one person's opinion and another person's opinion and form your own, right? Learn how to think a little bit more deeply about what's important for you and make those plans going forward. I mean, our program and prosperity movement addresses the fact that everybody's different, has a different background, different experience, different cognition level, different ambitions in life, different everything. And therefore, there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all series of videos and book content that's going to produce a viable trader. We have to dive into it together and see where they are, meet them where they are, figure out where they're trying to go, and guide them that direction. And it's person to person different, right?
Yeah.
So, and it does takes being resilient and being resourceful. I remember you telling me, Zach, that if you don't respond to people who immediately start asking you questions, then about 10 minutes later they'll pop in like, "Oh, never mind, I figured it out." And I thought it was so funny because I was totally doing that with you too. I was like, "Hey man, blah, 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 blah. Never mind, figured it out." And you never responded to me. I was like, he got me good. But it was kind of guiding me towards being more resourceful and stuff too. But I like that, the idea, resilient and resourceful. And I don't honestly.
I like what you were saying too with the different perspectives. So like there's this concept of wisdom, and a lot of times people confuse wisdom with experience because it's not the same thing, right? Sometimes people are like, well, you're older, you have more wisdom because you've had certain, more experiences in life. That's not exactly necessarily true, right? If you take a guy or a gal that was a doctor, they went to college, they went to medical school, they became a doctor, then they retired. Are they going to tell you college is for everybody? There's a good chance. There's a good chance they're going to be like pro college, pro medical school, and doing that route. Versus if you get a guy like me, and let's pretend I'm old and ancient, right? Am I going to be,
You are a grandpa, so
I am a grandpa. So, but am I going to be? Yeah, you should go to college. No, right? So your experience kind of dictates a bit of your opinion, but where wisdom comes into play is when you can understand someone's opinion on the opposing viewpoint, and then you understand the opposite side of the fence, and you can actually draw a real wise conclusion. So in the example of college, I would say it depends on what you want to do, right? Because if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a lawyer, you kind of have to, right? You have to go to college.
I think for
But
those who really know what they want to do, they're
yeah,
going to college for a specific reason, like you're saying. Then
yeah,
of course there's a need for it to some degree. But I mean, even as a lawyer, you just have to pass the bar exam.
that's
You
true.
don't have to go to college, as far as I understand.
Correct.
It's
It's like
better if you do. I'm not sure how that industry works, but I don't think you have to go. And so, like, why would you do that? But medical, understandably, you do have to go and go through years and years and years of dedication and education as well. And I think I do agree with that for sure. I don't want people telling me with health and biological medicinal advice and such, or surgical. I don't want any of them to not have gone through the ringer. Like
yeah.
we want to make sure that they're actually there for a reason, kind of thing. So, but other than that, really, what does a liberal arts degree get you today?
Right. Well, and see, and that's wisdom. So I'm not going to say blanket statement college is not for everybody or college is not good for anybody, or I'm not going to say a blanket statement college is the best thing anyone could ever do. No, there's unique scenarios and it depends on the person, it depends on their situation. That to me is wisdom. You're looking at different opposing sides of things and you're trying to understand and come up with a conclusion and a perspective based on all of it. So, um yeah, that's wisdom. So not old age and experience. That's not always wisdom necessarily.
So what you're saying is that knowledge is knowing that tomatoes are fruits, and wisdom is knowing not to put the tomato in the fruit salad.
Nice. Yes.
I heard that somewhere many years ago, and dude, this is such an embarrassing thing for me. Well, when I was first in college as a freshman, I was taking this pretty entry level biology class, and the professor's like, "What's the difference between a fruit and a vegetable?" And one of the girls chimed in, and she said, "Well, fruits have seeds. That's one difference." And I was like, "Dummy! Like zucchinis have seeds, you know." Like, I was really confused. I didn't actually call her names or anything, but in my head, I was like, "Oh, how silly!" And the professor was like, "Yeah, very good. That's a good example." I was like, "Huh?" And like, my life changed when I found out that cucumbers, zucchinis, tomatoes, because I think most people associate fruit with sweet,
Yeah.
right? Like sugary, rather
Yeah.
than just the idea of it being the fruit part of a plant, and a
Yeah.
vegetable is anything else besides the fruit. So, anyways, completely unrelated, but the idea of knowledge and wisdom and stuff, right? It's like I had no knowledge of that. I was like, oh, how silly.
My kids are like, if tomatoes are fruit, does that mean ketchup is a jelly? I'm like, ew. Does that sound kind of gross?
Well, if you actually jellify it, yeah, that would be nasty. You remember purple ketchup? Do you
I
remember that?
I remember the different colored ketchups, like the green and stuff like that.
It's disgusting. I don't know why it's so foul to me, but it's just ugh.
Yeah.
Wisdom. It's wisdom to know that you don't eat green ketchup. That means it's moldy.
Anyway, guys, so we just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about like just living in your means, being wise with your income, being resilient and resourceful is these are key principles to building wealth. And of course, another key principle is having the right opportunity, which is where prosperity movement comes into play. We have an outstanding community, and with their help, we've been able to identify some of the best routes to take in order to build your income, to build your cash flow, to grow that cash flow, have disposable income, so to speak, in order to invest so that your money can make more money, and those kinds of things. And so, if you want to get more information and also just become a member of our prosperity movement, you just go to our website, prosperitymovement.online. I'll pop it in here in the Zoom chat. And on the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little chat bubble. It actually has a little thing that says, "Hi there, have a question? Send us a message here." And so when you click in there, you can put in your information. And for the message, if you want to, you can type in resilience and resourcefulness. That's a really big. Those are big.
Type in tomato jelly.
Type in tomato jelly.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Type in resourceful. That's an easy one.
Resourceful. Well, just type in resourceful, and we will. Someone from our team will reach out, and we'll give you a free training called the Trading Blueprint. And it's not a trading strategy or anything like that, but it is a lot of the perspective and thoughts surrounding investing and trading, and some of the processes that we've built that have seen a lot of success. And we're gonna continue to do that, and our members continue to win, and it's a glorious thing, and we love it. So we'd love for you to be a part of it, as long as you're resourceful. So cool. Is that anything else, Travis, before we tie up?
No, just again, it's prosperitymovement.online. That's how you can get there. prosperitymovement.online, and type in resourceful.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.